Firstly, thank you. Honored to be here, VNR, at one of the most finest engineering colleges in India. Thank you for having me here. Truth be told, I always wanted to be an engineer because I wanted to invent cool stuff and send rockets to space like Elon. If the faculty wants to give me a free admission, I think I can join as a student. I hope I still look like a student, not that old. Yeah. So I want to start off with this quote saying, the most powerful person in the world is a good storyteller. I learned that from Steve Jobs. But I want to add on and say, but a great storyteller is someone that shares that story, leaving the scar. So, I'll be telling you 3 simple stories today from my life till now. That's it, just 3 simple stories. And I gave them 3 simple names. BB, CC, and DD. Hope it's not hard to remember. So the first one, I call it Bundy to brand. If in English, bottom to best. So when I was 19 years old, when I was a young kid, I had 2 passions. One is food, one is technology. I thought food was easy, so I came here first. It's kicking my ass. And then, when I was 19 years old, rather than applying for universities and collecting master degrees, I thought I'll do something cool and drop out, and then follow my dreams and purpose. But how do you follow your purpose and your dreams when you have nothing in the bank? Well, you scrape whatever you have, whatever little money you can, and start selling on the streets. And that's what I did. So, we sold in the streets in front of many schools and colleges, wherever there was crowd, there was our street stall, there was our Bundy. It was small, it was scary, but it was incredibly liberating and motivating when people were lining up just to have a taste of your product. And after a few months of selling on the street, we slowly gathered some courage and opened a very small shop in the street. Just 4 to 5 tables. We just used to have 4 to 5 tables. But that was the biggest one we could afford back then. And let me tell you, everything was small and humble about that shop, except for one thing, that is the revenues. We started breaking records. Every single week, we started breaking records. People absolutely loved us and hated us at the same time. They loved us because we were good, and hated us because we used to make them stand all the time. I hate you, make me stand all the time, do something about it. So we gathered a little more courage after 2 years and took a shop 10 times bigger than the previous shop. And then, naively thinking, now we have a big store. Now people won't hate us anymore. Little bit did we know that the same situation will come again, and people start standing again, and we blow up again. We start breaking records every single week again. And now, after 2 years, we all were scratching our heads. Now what do? They hate us again. Like, we have to expand. How do we expand? We're just 2 kids on the street. We researched on how McDonald's and Starbucks expanded, and they all had one thing in common. They had a centralized kitchen. I was like, what's a central kitchen? We researched on it, and we ended up taking one of the biggest central kitchens in South India that can supply all over South India, and even surpassing to the north as well. And then the growth of Churrolto becoming a national brand is becoming true and true as the days pass by. Now let's get back to that kid in that street. I learn a lot from this kid, still now. If I can tell one character that this kid has, just one character, I wouldn't say his work ethic, I wouldn't say his tenacity, I wouldn't say his obsession, but the one character I would give this kid is his ability to be seen at the very bottom. He was okay in being looked at the bottom and starts selling on the street in front of his friends, family, colleagues, relatives, and sometimes even his ex-girlfriend. He put on multiple caps during the day, like the cap of a steward, the cap of a cashier, a storekeeper, an accountant, and even a housekeeper sometimes. And lastly, the best of all, what I learned from this kid is he never ever complained about this situation, and he absolutely loved every step of the process. So that was the most important trait I would give this kid. I am talking in as a third person because I still learn from his humility, I still learn from his moldability, and I still learn especially from his innocence. So this is the first story, the ability to be seen at the very bottom. But for people who are anxious and scared to take that first step, I would leave with one single quote from the first story. This is from my favorite Chinese philosopher. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Now, for my second story, CNC. From crisis shows capacity. Whenever crisis strikes, it shows your capacity. So this story is from my doctor mother. She's a practicing gynecologist from the past 35 years. One day when I was a young child, just 10 years old, I witnessed something where all the staff, all the nurses and the compounders had a falling out because they were caught in a combined theft. They all left the surgery in midway. And my mother, not losing her cool or calm, called a housekeeping lady nearby sweeping the floors, told her to come over here, put on some surgical gloves, said, hold the forceps out strong, and she put an incision on the abdomen, performed a C-section, took out the baby boy, smacked him on his bottom, so the baby boy started crying and breathing, saying hello to this world. And I was just a little boy witnessing all of this. Two things happened that day. That housekeeper lady is a registered nurse in the hospital the next day. Second thing is that story had a concrete place in my mind for the future. And years later, when I asked her, what were your emotions when such a thing happened, when everyone left you alone in that surgical room? She said, childbirth, she said very cool and calmly, childbirth has been happening in the world from thousands of years. Hospitals are just excuses and gimmicks to do nature's work. I did nothing special. Yeah. So this crisis has been a lesson for me when I got hit with a similar crisis, where every year for an entire whole week I do this campaign called Free Churros, where we give free churros to everyone that walks inside Churrolto. And why? Because you guys give chocolates on your birthday, we give churros on our birthday. That's a simple thing. And we end up serving thousands of people every hour. Now, what would any rational person do looking at that workload of serving thousands per hour? If you're thinking run away, then you're right. Staff strength of Churrolto, day 1, 200 people, serving 4 outlets. Staff strength of Churrolto, day 2, 100 people, serving thousands per hour. Staff strength on day 3, 75 people, and it goes on. My partner on the phone, how the hell do we run a company with less than half the staff? I didn't have an answer for 5 minutes. But then the crisis came back into my mind and said, don't worry, I have experience. call anyone and everyone and put them in positions. So by the end of the day, my HR head was the barista, my finance head was a cashier, my marketing head was a food handler, and my culinary head, like a one-man army, took care of the whole central kitchen, and we ended up serving 35,000 people that week. Crisis is the only way to reveal your capacity. Again, crisis is the only way to reveal your capacity. And one more similar crisis. This time it was a global pandemic where we had to shut down for months together. And in the last month, we were like scraping by to pay rents and salaries. We had no other way. Crisis strikes again. Crisis helped me build a website in 7 hours so I can deploy it, my customers can order, and I can get some money. Crisis helped me build an app in 2 days with subscription services, so I got 100 subscribers and released it to the market in the next 3 hours. So all those 100 subscribers helped me pay me my rentals and salaries that month. Crisis is the only way to show your true capacity. I would like to end story number 2 with saying, whenever you think you can't take it anymore, like you think this is it, I can't do anymore, I can't handle this pain, you're just 40% there. Please keep going, do not stop. It's by David Collins. My last story is my favorite story. It's about death and discovery. I had a few close calls of death in my life, but the two instances that I'll tell you right now are my 2 favorite. When I was a little boy, 2 years old, I used to live beside a forest. The family used to live right beside a forest. And the forest was home to multitudes of poisonous snakes. They used to crawl, they used to sometimes come inside the house, and they used to hide in the garden most of the times. One day, my tired mother, coming from her hospital shift, was waiting in the lawn, and she suddenly got startled, shocked, and didn't move, because she saw a boy naked waiting to welcome her mother home on the front lawn. Why was she shocked, you ask? Because there was a 5-foot long snake passing in between my legs, and all she could think was, at that time, the calculation of the snake biting me and the travel that would take her to reach the hospital, and the calculation was, will I survive or not? Thankfully, because I'm such a brave kid, I ended up stepping on the snake, and the snake got scared and crawled away. My second instance isn't as scary as stepping on the snake, but it's a little bit more lethal than that. What happens when a dumb 16-year-old kid gets his hands on his father's car keys? Well, he takes it out for a drive. In the middle of the night, along with 3 of his close friends, tries to achieve top speed on an unknown road. What's the result? He loses control over the steering wheel. The car tires lose grip over the road. The car twists, topples 6 times in the air before crashing into a nearby field, coming to a standstill. Before you think anything, there's a happy ending to it. I'm still here, so don't worry. Now, before I reveal the specific details of this event, let me tell you the only thing that will be running in your mind is, how is this guy still here? The first detail, the car was at a speed of 140 kilometers per hour. The car, when lost control, toppled in the air for 6 times, crashing into a nearby field, squashing the engine. Just to add to all this luck, it was an old car, we didn't have seat belts, and we didn't have any airbags. And all 4 of us walked out of that incident with just nicks and scratches that didn't even matter, and no one had to say goodbye that night. Someone had my back that night. God had my back that night. After coming out of that car, there was a hazy memory of God coming to me and saying, "Hey kid, I know you're dumb, but you still matter. You still can love. I'm not done with you. And you need to keep going because the clock is ticking." Whenever someone asks me, how do you take such big risks? How do you take such radical decisions? How do you work 18 hours a day? And how did you not take a day off in the last 8.5 years? Because death was the biggest motivator for me as a 16-year-old child. Every single day I wake up, I feel this is a gift and this is a reward from God. That breath you take right now, it is a gift from God. That's how I push myself every single day. And this should be your motivator. Whenever you are fearful, whenever you feel anxious, whenever you care about other people's opinion, you just remind yourself of this final quote. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way to live, because someday, most certainly, it will come true. VNR, thank you. It's been an honor of a lifetime.